Yo, what's up, guys? How's everyone doing? Hopefully you guys are doing well with this heat wave that's going around, because man, it is hot. I had to go ahead and get me one of these nice little fans. So I'm trying to survive, guys. But anyway, let's get into this video. U.S. tourism is crashing. 200 billion gone by 2025. Silent disaster. Now, I love doing videos on this situation because, the things we're not going to complain about the crash and losing 200 billion because the stuff was avoidable. One clown came in and, just ruined it for everybody. And we're not going to complain about it because, we should be mad at ourselves for putting this guy in office. Too late to complain. Should have thought about that before you voted for the clown. So let's go check this out. Let me know where you are from in the chat, as always. I love seeing my people, man. I love you guys. Let's go. Elise Preston, what you got to say?
Visitors are even being told by their home countries to take their vacations and money elsewhere.
Do you feel like your friends and family feel comfortable traveling there?
No. Nobody I know back in England or here.
And then the police can take them and just take them to a country outside the States, and then they're not a protected citizen anymore.
Horror stories are emerging of treatment at the border, with one story so shocking it's got many asking if America's still safe.
I think the atmosphere is changing there, so I would prefer to go there. I'd probably stay in Europe.
On a quiet stretch of border between Ontario and New York, something strange is happening. The duty-free shops are still stocked, the highways are still open, the signs still read, "Welcome to the United States." But the cars? They are not coming. Not like they used to. The numbers are in, and they are shocking. Canadian road trips into the United States have dropped more than 35% this year alone. That is not a slump, that is a crash, and it is just the beginning. Before we continue, hit that like button to help us beat the YouTube algorithm and to show your support. Across airports, amusement parks, and hotel lobbies in America's most visited cities, the silence is growing louder. International travelers, once the lifeblood of United States tourism, are disappearing. From Mexico to Germany, from China to the United Kingdom, fewer people are flying in, fewer are booking tours, and fewer are spending money. It is not a pandemic, it is not fear of war. This time, the enemy is paper-thin but politically loaded tariffs. And together with diplomatic retaliation, price inflation, and economic uncertainty, they are draining the United States tourism sector of its lifeblood.
Hold on, let me stop this right here. Because it's not only the tariffs, it's also the fact that they were trying to annex Canada and make them the 51st state. It's also the fact that travelers are coming to America and they're being harassed as if there were terrorists. Even people from Canada trying to cross the border have been detained and arrested and placed in custody without any explanations. That's the thing. They're going through people's phones and stuff like this, breaking, violating rights, and that's not okay. So it's not only the tariffs, that's a part of it, but there's other things involved as well. I think the tariffs are a minuscule part of the situation, in my opinion.
By the end of this year, the United States is on track to lose over $12 billion in foreign travel spending. That is not an estimate. It is a confirmed retreat in international demand. But when you stretch that number across the last few years since the trade war escalated, the cumulative damage is staggering. The United States has already lost more than $30 billion in tourism-related revenue since 2021. If current trends hold, by the end of 2025, that number will cross $200 billion. $200 billion gone quietly. Now here is what is truly astonishing. Back in 2019, international tourists spent nearly $200 billion in the United States. That year, the tourism sector supported over 1 million American jobs. Cities like New York, Orlando, and San Francisco relied heavily on this foreign spending to keep their hotels booked, their restaurants full, and their small businesses alive. But fast forward to today, and global travel reports show international tourist spending in the United States has dropped by 22% from its pre-trade war peak. That is not just a correction, it is a seismic shift, and it is driven by a very specific kind of backlash. Economic retaliation dressed in patriotic tourism. Let us talk about Canada. Historically, it is the single largest source of foreign tourists to the United States. But following a wave of American tariffs on Canadian imports, something changed. Earlier this year, Canadian leaders launched a soft boycott of United States tourism. Public campaigns encouraged Canadians to vacation at home. The message was simple: if you want to support Canada, do not spend your dollars in the United States. It worked. In February, the number of Canadians driving across the border dropped by 23%. By April, the number had cratered, down over 35% year on year. And with that drop came a devastating ripple effect. The United States Travel Association warns that even a 10% drop in Canadian visitors would cost the United States over $2 billion in annual tourism revenue, but current losses have already doubled that estimate. One Canadian report projects that the domestic tourism surge in Canada, fueled by the boycott, has redirected almost $9 billion away from the United States economy. That money, once spent in Seattle, Chicago, and Boston, is now circulating in Toronto, Vancouver, and Calgary. What began as a border tax dispute has evolved into a full-scale travel realignment, and Canada is not alone. Across the Atlantic, the story is repeating. European tourists, especially from Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, are cancelling trips to the United States. Some are reacting to political frictions, others to newly tightened entry rules. Earlier this year, Germany issued a travel advisory reminding its citizens that even a valid visa does not guarantee entry into the United States. That message, while subtle, sent waves across Europe. Then came the economic factor: tariffs on European wine, cheese, and steel, some as high as 200%, triggered retaliation and a souring of sentiment. The World Travel and Tourism Council now says the United States is the only major country in the world seeing an absolute decline in international tourism spending. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button to show your support to the channel. And now we come to the invisible tariffs, the ones that never show up on customs forms but bite just as hard. Higher costs. Tariffs on imported steel and aluminum have driven.
Before we continue, please hit that like and subscribe and comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe on my video as well. I had to put in my drop, you know.
Driven up prices across the board, from building materials to airline parts to kitchen equipment. The result? Hotels are more expensive to build and renovate. Airlines are more expensive to operate. Restaurants are more expensive to run. And guests are paying the price. The effective tariff rate in the United States now hovers near 30%, levels not seen since the Great Depression. As costs climb, service prices follow. And travelers, both foreign and domestic, are choosing cheaper destinations elsewhere. Meanwhile, airlines are pulling back. Delta, Southwest, and United have all lowered their earnings forecasts this year, citing weaker demand. Not because people are afraid to fly, but because they are choosing not to. Economic uncertainty and cost of living pressures are making travel a luxury. And for international visitors, the strong dollar and trade-related tension make the United States a less appealing destination. The World Bank has now downgraded United States economic growth for the year to just 1.4%, half the rate of the year before. That slowdown is already rippling through the tourism economy. In Las Vegas, hotel occupancy rates are down. In Florida, Disney has seen a decline in international attendance. In New York, Broadway is playing to smaller crowds. The spending gap is real, and the multiplier effect is dangerous. Foreign tourists spend up to 7 times more per person than domestic travelers. So when a European family cancels a 2-week United States vacation, it does not just cost a hotel a few nights of booking. It costs the local economy thousands of dollars in lost meals, retail sales, and entertainment purchases. And those losses add up. This is not just an industry problem, it is a national economic problem. tariffs, intended to protect domestic jobs and industries, are now bleeding into sectors that were never supposed to be targets. Tourism is one of America's most dynamic export industries, because foreign visitor spending counts as an export. Every dollar spent by an overseas visitor in Los Angeles or Chicago is a dollar flowing into the country. But when trade tensions rise and retaliation spreads, even these indirect exports are at risk. The result? A silent recession in a sector that cannot afford to shrink. And then there is the geopolitical layer, when countries like China, Canada, or Germany encourage their citizens to stay away from the United States, not through force, but through incentives and public messaging. It creates a kind of diplomatic cold shoulder. These boycotts are not loud, they are not formal, but they are effective. Just as the United States uses tariffs to pressure other nations economically, those nations are now using tourism to pressure back. It is soft power, wielded with precision. And for United States businesses that depend on foreign tourists, the consequences are very real. But what about solutions? Can this trend be reversed? In theory, yes. Trade negotiations are ongoing. United States and Chinese officials met this week in London for their second round of talks. The atmosphere was reportedly positive, with both sides signaling openness to partial tariff reductions. If those talks succeed, it could send a signal to the world that the United States is reopening, not just for business, but for tourism. But even then, the road to recovery will be long. Reputation, once damaged, takes time to rebuild, and infrastructure investments delayed by tariff uncertainty may not return immediately. The United States tourism sector needs more than a ceasefire. It needs a reinvestment. That means faster visa processing. That means clearer, more welcoming travel policies. That
needs a new president. That's what it needs. Nobody wants to come over here. No one wants to come to America and be disrespected, violated. No one wants that. These policies this guy's putting in place, they're not encouraging tourism. They're encouraging people to stay away, So that has to change.
That means coordinated campaigns to restore confidence among global travelers. Other countries are doing it. Thailand, France, and Mexico are all actively courting tourists with streamlined entry rules and targeted promotions. The United States risks falling behind. And here is the final twist. Domestic travel cannot fill the gap. Even if every American took one extra vacation this year, the spending shortfall from international visitors would remain, because international tourists spend more, stay longer, and support different sectors. From luxury retail to fine dining to cultural institutions, these travelers fuel economic activity at a scale that domestic tourism alone cannot replicate. So, where does this leave us? With a clear warning, tariffs are not just taxes, they are signals. Signals that shape perception, sentiment, and ultimately behavior. When countries feel targeted, they push back, sometimes with counter-tariffs, sometimes with cancelled meetings, and sometimes with cancelled vacations. Multiply that by tens of millions of travelers, and the impact is devastating. The $200 billion collapse in United States tourism by the end of 2025 is not a distant possibility. It is a real-time event. It is unfolding in empty hotel rooms, in quiet border crossings, in cancelled bookings, and in muted airport terminals. And unless something changes soon, unless diplomacy regains ground and trade tensions ease, the silence will only get louder. So the next time someone tells you tariffs are a zero-sum game, remind them of this. One decision in a trade office can ripple across oceans, into people's plans, into businesses' margins, and into the core of a national economy. What looks like a strategic move on paper can cost billions in human behavior. And when tourists stop coming, the losses are not just economic, they are cultural. They are reputational, they are global, because tourism is more than travel, it is trust.
Yeah, it's trust. You can't trust anyone that's, trying to violate you. Come on now, it's crazy. So, that's the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think. They hit on some good points, but for me, I believe it's more to it than just the tariffs. Trust, disrespect, all those play a huge part on why people are not visiting America. So let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.